You know, I've worked for this guy for 37 years, and you're trusting me with a public microphone? Today I'm happy for him, for Pam, for their entire family, even for the dogs. I'm especially happy for the Jamestown Area YMCA as Mark has poised us for future success. Mark and I go way back. I actually interviewed him long ago, 1985, really, and I told him, you better run. I'm glad he didn't listen to me. We've had our ups and downs. During his first year when I was waterfront director, he fired me during my second week of summer camp. I think it was because I swore at his dogs when they invaded my lakefront rules orientation. But I stayed on, and I think we soon learned that we actually needed one another. Anyasa was on the verge of closure. Discussions about selling the camp were real, and in the years since Spiro Bello had retired, Anyasa had gained a poor reputation, degraded buildings, weak staff, and programmatic challenges. Mark was the camp and youth director for 2 years, when amid association turmoil, he ascended to executive director and I assumed the camp director's role. During those early years, Mark and I actually both lived at camp year-round in the same house. And he was a bachelor, and so was I. And he was the first person I knew to have a satellite dish. That thing was huge. But he needed to watch the Cleveland Browns games. I was a Bills fan, so I didn't join him, but his dogs usually joined me. I think all of them lived in my room when I was a student in France for a semester. But I loved those labs and eventually adopted 2 of their descendants myself. He also had a crew of kids from Ohio, Brian, Backus, and Blakesley, who used to come up and kook around on weekends, and a maintenance guy with a hot temper and short shorts who ended up on our staff for a bit too long. Not here tonight. In costume, Mark takes on a different persona. I remember him DJing a dance dressed like Pee Wee Herman. Pam, let's delete that image, okay? Pam was there. Camp only ran for 7 weeks back then, so I got to work with Mark to expand youth programming downtown, as well as working in every other department, then to watch and assist him in his CEO role as he remade the Jamestown YMCA by fixing old problems, expanding programs, building the membership, and hiring new staff like Tom Anderson. Within a few years, we acquired a failing Lakewood facility, and under their leadership, it's become a great success. A couple of years later, Mark moved to assume a declining 2XL program on 2nd Street and turned it into the Eastside Y, which came to thrive under John Barber's vision. We also moved a small after-school program for this building to the public schools, where Gina has done a great job. Soon thereafter, Mark worked to acquire the Heritage Daycare program, run so competently by Rhonda. That's not only based upon our long professional relationship, but the foremost authority, my 4-year-old daughter. Within our building, Mark led the effort to expand the facility to provide a new pool, gym, locker rooms, teen center, pre-K room, HUD apartments, and systems by managing a complex and sometimes contentious capital campaign in a very difficult building design and construction project. He also had the vision, although I disagreed at the time, to give the prime real estate in our building to members by moving our business operations upstairs. Somehow in that transition, I ended up in the same office I used long ago before my lifeguard shift to do my homework. Come full circle. More important than facility development was the staff development that Mark mentored. He's had a vision, selected great people, nurtured them, and let them meet high expectations with his guidance without micromanaging. Excellent staff like Jason, Maria, Ashley, Jessica, Casey, Alex, Dave, Matt, and Deanna, and so many more are examples of that leadership. Personally, he understood the unique role of YMCA camps in fulfilling the mission, sometimes misunderstood and perhaps even underappreciated. And he respected my direction at Anyasa. It's hard to be objective, but I believe we have one of the best small YMCA resident camps in the nation, and without doubt, a thriving future. Mark, I'm deeply and forever grateful for that trust. He's also faced difficult financial periods when hard decisions had to be made, especially as our old downtown facility grew less efficient and adaptable. I know his drive home at times was filled with stress over the association's possible inability to make payroll, but we always did, and he always showed up to work the next day to keep the Y going. Mark has been consistent and diligent among his other qualities. Now, he's led us to a common vision for the future, like Moses pointing to the promised land of a new, efficient, cutting-edge central facility, and an even stronger association and partnership with the Buffalo Niagara YMCA. Thank you, Mark, for your dedication, consistency, and leadership. And now, here's the guy you brought to camp many moons ago, who's returned to the Anasa staff this summer. Chris Blakeslee has a few words to express on your retirement.
So as John alluded, I'm one of the original kids that Mark took under his wing clear back in the Ohio days. I was a young little 8-year-old kid roaming the streets of Painesville, Ohio, nowhere to go, nothing to do. I tried to go into the Y to use the bathroom and they wouldn't let me in, so I went around back behind the Y and Mark comes pulling around in the bus and caught me. And from that moment on, this man has been in my life for 40 plus years, mentoring me, guiding me, leading me. I distinctly remember one of the first times I met with him, we were at day camp with the other two knuckleheads. John mentioned Dave Backus and Brian Mitchell, which Backus just called him earlier. Mark, youth director, puts us in the Grand River, gives us these inner tubes, and he forgot to check the weather. The night before, we had a flash flood warning. So Mark was at the end, oh, there's Dave and Brian now. So Backus remembers and Brian both remember us going down the the Grand River at like 30 miles an hour and Mark swimming past all of us to try to create a human net to catch us. Luckily, we didn't lose any kids that day. Thank you, guys. Going back to what I said, Mark came up here and became the camp director. My life fundamentally changed when he came up here because I lost my best friend as a young kid. I lost my father figure. But Mark stayed in touch with us through the whole time. It was amazing. He brought me up as a day camper. I remember John being the waterfront director. I remember Mark just welcoming me into his family. And, I think I still, to this day, have a little bit of PTSD because every time I would get in trouble at camp or I would make him mad, they would just point at the kitchen. And I would go there and I'd be on KP duty for 2 weeks. But the one that really got me the most was, those of you old school and Yas remember we did have a rivalry with Mission Meadows. And Charlie Watkins and John's younger brother had me swim across the bay and steal all the girls' clothes. And I came back. They gave me $20 and told me to mail the clothes back one at a time. They didn't tell me not to put my return address on the envelope. So, don't take notes. So I got that dreadful call, Chris Blakeslee, report to the main office. Charlie Watkins, who's standing in the back there, told me if I said anything, they were going to duct tape me upside down to the flagpole and beat me up, so I didn't squeal on them. Young Sheriff Jim Catrone, who was a young deputy at that time, was the one that came by to tell me that what I did was really stupid and drove me to the Y to see Mark. And I distinctly remember Mark's words, "You're not smart enough to do this. Who put you up to it?" But I did not break. I said I did it. But then after he threatened to send me home and, a few tears later, then the real Mark came out. The Mark that I know, the Mark that I love. He was more mad that I put my name on the return address than I actually did swimming across the lake and stealing the clothes. But through thick and thin, and I kid you not, through thick and thin, this man has been an integral and stabilizing force in my life. When I was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, I wouldn't call home. I would call him and Pam, who has been like a mother to me. Enjoy your rest. You deserve it. And God bless you for being who you are.
And Chris is right back where he started in the dish room at Anyasa every morning, 8 o'clock. Thank you, Chris, in his retirement. Another long-term camper, Y person. This guy was on the board when I was a kid here learning how to swim. Chairman of the YMCA Board of Trustees. Please give a big hand to Mike Lyons.
Mark, we're here to rightfully and sincerely thank you for all the many years you've been with us. I can't believe it's 44 years. And what I really can't believe is I was there on the board, I think it was, in what was it? 85 or 86. I think 86 when I came on. And you were involved at the Y and stepped up, and we decided to take a chance. I should say it's instead of we needed a new person, we had to have somebody let go, new person to be the CEO. And Mark was on our radar scope. We looked, saw, decided to take a chance, do something from inside instead of go outside again, and Mark started. It was quite a time, really, and it was a big decision to make in terms of who to get and how and what. Should we do it in-house? And we did it. And Mark is here still with us today. He's really a true YMCA person. He learned, developed his YMCA relationships, took the courses, became more and more confident over the years. I mean, it's a story, really a story of development here at the YMCA. And it wasn't easy, and there were rough, challenging times that we went through, all through that time period that Mark's been with us. But he continued to grow in it, and he continued to do well in it. Look at the East Side Y, look at the school meals, look at the Lakewood, look at the daycare program, look at the refurbishing the Jamestown facilities. And all of these things have happened under Mark's leadership. I mean, it's really quite something. And now we're in the, hopefully, we've got it in our sights, and Mark helped us get going on this in terms of developing and building a new YMCA. So we hope all of you are going to give all the money you have to that program here tonight. Mark, you turned into a confident and strong Y leader, really. And you get respect from your peers and from us. All of us, I think. The last several years have not been easy, there's no question. I mean, what the heck, you had COVID, you had got aging facilities, you got a shrinking membership. Then managing the wonderful PPP came on, really did a lot, and you managed it. You did it, you got it done. So here we are, working on a new YMCA, getting ready to go, and you leaving us. But you know, much of our progress is due to you, and that's really it. And you and I have had a lot of discussions, and we haven't always agreed on things, but YMCA was the key factor, and we got it done. And your success really was quite a feat and a wonderful send-off to you. As you leave for whatever you're going to do, you got to leave with a wonderful feeling about your progress in life. I mean, I think it's absolutely super. So I guess I've got a couple little things that I'm supposed to give you. I'd like to look at them first to make sure that they're okay. Maybe I want one. Let's see. First, you come on up here a little bit. This is a little gift for your travel and adventure.
Okay.
All right? And it's heavier and heavier and heavier. There's
Okay.
so much in there. So that's for you from all your YMCA friends and I think your YMCA leadership team here with you today. And you get from us, from the YMCA, a lifetime membership to YMCA. As you get. You got that. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. As your team was interviewing Mark doesn't know this, but I sat in the youth department coat room and said a little prayer for Mark during the interview. So I'm glad it turned out as it should have. And a guy who probably needs a few prayers, leading our Y right now is board president, that's just a joke, great guy, I knew him in junior high school, and now it's great to be on the same team with him again, George Panamienko.
I promise to keep this short because it's hotter than hell in here. I have almost the same exact recollection as all the people that have spoke earlier, which is around 1986, I got to meet Mark, but under different circumstances. I met him on this basketball court, and I'm convinced we hated each other because he was very competitive, and I used to foul a lot. So over the years, we used to argue quite a bit. We used to have our tussles. But the best thing that happened is he convinced me to join the Y board. And since then, I've got to be on the board a number of different times. And I'm here really to give you their perspective. I mean, you got perspective from all the different people and all the different groups. But there's two things that I wanted to say. I started to write down the types of things that he dealt with on a regular basis and the board had to deal with. But Terry Strachan said something earlier tonight that is more important than all of those. The most important thing we all have is our time. And Mark has spent 44 years of his life dedicated to the families and the children of this community. And I can't think of a more worthwhile way to spend your life than that. And so we all should give Mark a round of applause for his years of service to the families of this city. And just to go through my list so that I say I contributed to this, things like a flooded basement, a leaky roof, private lawsuits, disgruntled clients, criminal charges being brought against members, personnel issues, fundraising, capital campaigns, the Dream House fundraiser that everyone was petrified wasn't going to work, and Mark was able to get it to work, and we were able to raise money, along with the tremendous capital campaign that added the additions to this building. The Legacy Fund, annual banquets, the NCAA fundraiser that put $20,000 towards children's programs every year, the Battle of the Businesses, acquisitions of the Lakewood Y, the East Side Y, and Heritage, a 100-year-old building. And throughout all these years, there have been two constants. This old building and Mark keeping it afloat. And many, many times we would be at those meetings and we weren't sure how we would keep it afloat. And he would come in April and say, we're $300,000 over budget. This happened, that happened, we need a new roof, there's a problem with the electric, there's a problem with the basement. And somehow, some way, he made it work. And somehow the budget always worked. I don't know how he did it. I think it was a shell game with mirrors and smoke, and I don't know how in the world, Mark, I don't know how you did it. But every year I never worried because I knew the Y was in good hands. And so on behalf of the board members of the Y, during my tenure and the last 35 years, we are indebted to you for your commitment, to your love of the community, and for the love of the YMCA. And finally, we talk about two things: his commitment and this old building. Well, Mark has promised us he's not leaving. He's not going to be our executive director, but he's going to continue with the capital campaign. And I promise you, within the next 2 years, we're going to build the new Jamestown YMCA, and it's because of Mark Eckendorf. On behalf of the board of directors, we got tired seeing all these Pittsburgh Steelers stuff, okay? So we've gotten a gift basket here with Cleveland Browns stuff, and we're going to send Mark to 2 games, the opening home game, Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets, and Cleveland Browns and the San Diego Chargers. This is our gift to you, Mark, in great appreciation. Thank you very much. Hold on. There was one thing that had to hang in Mark's house, which is, all I need is Cleveland Brown football and my dog. I can't think of anything more appropriate. Congratulations.
Well, another fixture, and I mean that in the kindest way, the Jamestown YMCA, been a long-standing member, employee who started full-time in this building as our office manager, and from my viewpoint as a child, essentially ran the Y. It was kind of a second mother to me. 1971, started full-time after volunteering and working part-time prior to that. And apparently now, local newspaper media star for her master's swimming skill, Judy Young.
When I first heard about that this celebration was going to be held, I requested if I could speak a word or two, because I think other than John, I might be the only person who was working at the YMCA when Mark came. He came as the youth and camp director, it's been said, and I got to know him quite well, quite quickly, because in those days, the camp did not have an administrative assistant. So there were 2 of us in the office, and we helped Mark with camp. My coworker did a lot with registration, and if there were other things that needed to be done, she and I did it. And my most vivid memory of that time is that Mark brought a new program to camp, which we were not aware of, and he made us aware of it very quickly. And with proper paperwork, which with the federal government requires quite a bit, he brought some funds to the camp that subsidized the meals for the scholarship children. And he did that for many, many years. Then when he became executive director, that coincided with my plans for retirement. So I didn't have the privilege of working with him very long at that time. But fortunately, while he was executive director, our paths crossed a lot, because when there were huge programs, one of which was mentioned this time was the Dream House, the office girls were overwhelmed with the details of that. So he very kindly let me work in the office again and help the girls. So thank you, Mark, for all you've done for the Jamestown YMCA, and best wishes to you in your new adventure.
Another fixture, especially of the Lakewood branch, the person who largely made that successful, Tom Anderson. Tom doesn't know that he started out here selling printed shirts. And he always was trying to hit up Mark and me for camp shirts and other things. So this was his start and another fortuitous event. Tom.
I'm going to be interpreting for Tom. He's a translator. He speaks fluent Spanish. Do you have a second mic, Alex?
Mike's gonna interpret my speech. He talks good stroke language. Okay. Let's give a big hand for John O'Brien.
Let's go maybe for John O'Brien.
John, he has been at Camp Anassa forever. I saw an old black and white picture last summer hanging at Camp Anassa. The date of the picture was 1913. John was in the picture. That makes him 107 years old. Okay. Mark hired me in 1987 off the streets to be the physical director at the Jamestown YMCA. I was homeless. No, I wasn't homeless. He made me the head of the free weight club. Great. It was down in the basement. See if anyone can remember any of these great classic free weight lifters. Moose Rakowski. Yeah, it's good, Moose. Dan Spontino. John O'Brien. George Pearsall. Chuck Jamblighter. And Mike Lyons. Well, I wasn't a free weightlifter, so that didn't work out too well. Then Mark had a great idea to run the Battle of the Businesses. 3 reasons I took on this great event. It was big. 1, it would help the YMCA financially. Number 2, it would bring participants into the YMCA. And number 3, Mark made me. Over the past 33 years, there have been 60 companies with over 50,000 participants in the event, and it's still going strong today. I built a house down in Russell in the woods. My wife was having cancer surgery. The night before her surgery, there was a knock at my door around 10:30 p.m. Now, we don't have GPS. No one knew where I lived. I had a vicious guard dog to help protect me, a Labrador Retriever. When I opened the door, the dog jumped up on the intruder and started licking his face. It was Mark Eckendorf, and I bought the dog from him. He came into my house, said a prayer for Judy and me, and
And told her that she would be okay.
In 1991, we acquired the YMCA in Lakewood, and Mark told me I'll be the new branch manager. There were 3 reasons why I took on this big job. Number 1, I knew a lot of people from Lakewood in the tennis center. Number 2, I was pretty good at tennis. And number 3, Mark made me. I want to wish Mark a happy and healthy retirement. Thank you.
And Tom did such a good job there. We were supposed to go back and forth, but he was speaking so well, I didn't want to interrupt him there. He did a really good job. So, round of applause for Tom.
Well, Tom, thank you, Tom, for all you've done and how the strength of the Lakewood Y that you've led has really helped to support everything else we do to allow us to meet our mission in places like camp and other youth programs. So thank you for all that you've done at the Lakewood Y. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our new Vice President of Operations, my colleague and friend, John Barber.
Thanks. For those of you that don't know me, my name is John Barber, and I've been with the Jamestown YMCA now for 15 years. And I've been tasked with the opportunity to say a prayer, actually. And actually, in my time here at the Y, I've had multiple opportunities to say some prayers. And part of the reason why I tend to get assigned that is when, in my background, I have a Master's of Divinity. I've been trained as a pastor, and so when I came here on staff, they plugged me into these roles. But I only mention that because when I first met Mark, I was coming here to interview. And I was coming to interview, it was again 15 years ago, and I was a young dad. I was working double shifts, and I was recently fired from a youth pastor position. A story for another day. But only by divine providence, I heard about a position at the Y for a teen director. And I think pretty much at the last minute, I got my application in just before the deadline. By the way, that's a skill I've mastered to perfection in my current role. So Mark, when I interviewed, he asked me if I could make a commitment to something like 3 to 5 years in the role that I was interviewing for. And I don't exactly remember how I answered, but in my heart at the time, I pictured myself returning to some kind of church-based ministry at some point. Despite all of what I didn't know, Mark's willingness to offer this fired youth pastor a job was the provision of God for my family. And now I'm well past 3 to 5 years, certainly of that time commitment. And I'm thankful still for it, because in it I found a work that I now regard as a ministry. And I'm honored to be offering a prayer for the one who launched me on this leg of my life's work as you end this phase of yours. And I'm sure many organizations, when they have someone with as great a career as Mark has had here, they may not actually take some time for prayer, but this is fitting, and it's fitting for a few reasons. I mean, number one, the YMCA, at its foundation, it is a Christian organization. It was founded by believers who formed the Young Men's Christian Association as an avenue to help youth come to know and understand their Creator and His Son, Jesus Christ. Two, in a world that has in many ways sought to shake off its moorings to the one who is the source of everything, Mark has sought to keep his life knitted to the eternal Savior. And in your work with what we casually refer to as, we call it the Y, you've sought and not forgotten the C. In your 44 years of service to the Young Men's Christian Association, you've aspired by His enabling grace to conduct yourself in ways that reflect His ways, and you've asked for His help, wisdom, and blessing on the organization. And I've been grateful for the ways that I've been able to see the hand of God operating in you, and how I've seen His wisdom expressed in ways you conducted yourself with staff, members, children, or volunteers. Our organization has been blessed because you sought His provision, wisdom, and intervention. So as we celebrate your years of service, I want to offer a prayer for you and for the organization that now enters its next phase. So for those of you that are so inclined and to reach out to the one who made us, join me with this prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you that while this room is filled with staff, members, and volunteers, the past, present, and future of our organization will find itself reliant on your sustaining hand. We come to you with thanks for sending Mark Eckendorf to serve this organization for the last 3+ decades. We're so thankful for the ways your hand has made him a vessel to bring your blessing to the Jamestown community and to lift the lives of kids, families, and individuals. Ask for your hand to bless Mark in the days ahead. While this one work assignment may be ending, may you put into his heart the next work you have for him in the days to come. Above all, may his days be full of you, and as this race turns to the next leg, may your enduring strength and abiding love keep him on course to finish the race well. We thank you, Father, that where one man's work may shift, we as the Jamestown YMCA still have the invitation to seek your face and to ask for you to bring your blessing. Help this organization move upwards in the progress that has been established, and may you help this organization to enter its next phase of enriching the lives of the people living in the Jamestown area. In Jesus' name, amen. So thank you all for being here. We do have a gift, and this has been pulled together, Mark, as a gift which is actually an opportunity for you to take this gift and invest it in the kingdom. And so this is yours to invest as you see fit. Thank you.
And John, thank you for keeping our social contract always at the forefront, that to whom much is given, much is expected. I've watched you over the last 15 years to promote healthy growth in spirit, mind, body, the experience of community, especially for less privileged children. And I'm looking forward to working with you, our staff, our members, our volunteers, to push for youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. Someone who's also exemplified that for longer than 15 years. I won't go into our professional past beyond 15 years, but it's been a bit longer. Please give a hand to Rhonda Migliori.
Hi, thank you all for coming today and joining us as we celebrate Mark's retirement. So Mark and I have worked together for over 30 years, which is like hard to believe because time goes so fast. But I remember the first time I met Mark. I was at the front desk and I had just been hired as an aerobic instructor, and I was asking the front desk receptionist for a towel, and he was standing behind the desk looking quite annoyed that I was asking for a towel because I did not have a membership with a towel service. So I could tell right away, like, I have annoyed him. But like a pesky mosquito on a hot summer night, I just wouldn't go away. So he had to figure out what to do with me. So one of our first experiences together was working Camper Appreciation Week. And so back in the day, the camp staff would go off and they would do camp training, and the professional staff of the Y would actually staff day camp. And we would take kids all over the place, Waldemere, Fantasy Island, all kinds of fun places to go. And so Mark asked me if I would work this Camper Appreciation Week. And I was in love with the Y by then, so I was jumped in with both feet, had no clue what I was doing. But Mark and I, we worked together with Carol Lindell and Connie Myers and some of the other staff. We had a great time, and I think that's where I really realized Mark's love of children. It was so apparent when he was with kids, a group of kids, he would just light up, and kids just loved him. And my career working with children all these years, he would walk into the summer day camp and, you know, hassle some of the kids and chat with them, and they just always look forward to his impromptu visits into camp. And then, of course, playing Santa's Family Workshop Santa, a skinny Santa, which was really hard for us to explain to the kids why Santa was so skinny. But And then visiting with the UPK 4 kiddos as they were upstairs, and he would play jokes on them. And I've just always seen Mark invest in children, even bringing kids from his own neighborhood to camp. And it was something I've always admired and appreciated about him, and it definitely impacted so many children over the years. Another thing about Mark that I've really appreciated is he's always been very supportive to help us grow personally as a staff. It's one of the core values of the YMCA, and I think that it's truly been my experience. Mark would always encourage us to go to professional development conferences and workshops, and through the YMCA of the USA or other organizations. And one of the things that I was able to do while working here at the YMCA was obtain my bachelor's degree. And Mark really helped make that happen for me, and it was like a dream that I had since I was like 19 years old. And so it's just something I'm very thankful for, that he always challenged us and always encouraged us to grow and learn and just continue to be lifelong learners. Another thing that I learned from Mark is that it's okay to take a risk. And so he was always open to hear our ideas, and he trusted us to work things out. And even if things didn't always turn out the way that we wanted them to. We had a lot of successes, and some of them have already been mentioned today, the dream houses and East Side Y, and expanding our after-school care programs and adding heritage. But one of the things that we tried, and it just didn't work, was we tried to get a presence of the YMCA in the North County. And Mark and I worked really closely with some people in the North County for a long time, and it just didn't happen. But what I learned through that was it was okay to take a risk. It was okay that we tried it, and even though it didn't work out, because we can't always control the outcome of things, we learned a lot along the way. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from Mark, is that you gotta be willing to take a risk sometimes, even if you don't know what the outcome is gonna be. And then finally, I think one of the things that stands out to me about Mark, and John alluded to this, is his faith. Long before I ever had any type of relationship with God, Mark was an example of someone who lived out God's purpose and plan for his life. He always encouraged people in their faith through Men of Meditation. During our staff meetings, we would have devotions. He did I Am Second meetings here at the Y for a long time. And it's always been a part of who he is, and something that was an example for all of us standing there watching. There's a verse in the Bible that says, you know, there's a great cloud of witnesses watching, and we all have been watching him live out God's plan for his life. So I think that it's been something very powerful. So finally, I'd like to close with some final thoughts. Mark, I hope that you enjoy your retirement and that you relish your newfound freedom. You can sell all of your suits in a garage sale, and you can throw your alarm clock in the garbage. And I know that you're going to be missed, but I also know that you're going to be here every day for your regular daily workout, especially on Fridays, to get your popcorn fix. Yeah, and thank you for your years of service. Thank you for everything that you've... Yeah, I got to explain this, but just give me a second. So I have a couple of gifts for you. This is a gift of fitness, so this is for you, and that's from the Jamestown Y. And then this is also a gift from the staff, and there's a video in there, but apparently it's not appropriate to show to everyone, so you can just take that home. And so this, if you can see, this is a canopy. So there's a lot of uses for this, because we heard that you might want to use it for your dogs, but when I saw it, I thought, you know what, Pam, this gift might be for you. Because now y'all are going to be together a lot, and Mark probably is going to need a doghouse. So when you're in the doghouse, you'll have a place to send him. So God bless you, Mark. So honored that I could serve with you for so many years. God bless.
"30 years, Rhonda, you said it, not I."
Right?
Time flies. But I think the last couple of years, especially important for all you do, delivering the mission to infants up to pre-K schoolers, really helping the Y financially over the last few years in the age of COVID when it was difficult to do other programs. Someone who's helped not only the Jamestown Y, but Ys throughout New York State to deliver cause-driven leadership, a director of member advancement for Alliance of New York State YMCAs. Please give a hand to Mary Kay Polston.
Okay, so I promise not to be long-winded. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to honor Mark with all of you and to represent not just the Alliance, but YUSA as well, as we recognize an amazing 44-year career in the Y. So Mark believes that he may be the longest-sitting CEO at one YMCA. Of course, the Y is historically horrible at collecting any kind of data, but while we can't validate it, that's the story we're going to have here today, that Mark is the longest-sitting CEO of any YMCA ever. So congratulations on that. I do actually have a certificate from YUSA signed by our national CEO, Suzanne McCormick, to recognize you. Just a little something. But really wanted to also mention that in the last 2 years, since April 2020, Mark is the 9th CEO to retire in New York State. And so in October, we're going to have a gathering with our whole state and recognize all of our retiring CEOs. So there'll be more gifts from the Alliance coming then. But I'm happy to be able to be here in person today. So personally, I've known Mark since I started my Y career in 1992. I'm considerably younger than him, though, and I'll note that I was only 8 years old when Mark started his Y career. So I don't know, someday someone's going to be saying that about me. As I was talking to Mark before we started, I'm about 8 to 10 years away from retirement, and I'm sure somebody will be up here saying, I was only 2 years old when Mary Kay started her Y career, but look forward to that time. I asked Mark, actually, earlier tonight, how he was feeling, what he was most looking forward to, and he did say it was not setting an alarm, but also that he could stay up later for the games he likes to watch, right? And not have to worry about getting up so early and being at the Y. So we wish you many, many years of staying up late to watch your games. And I just want to close by saying, as I was thinking about Mark and all he's done, again, I've known him since '92. I think we first met on the field at Rich Stadium doing punt, pass, and kick. When I think about Mark and everything that I've heard tonight, he really is the true embodiment of the Y's values. And so when you think about those values, responsibility, right? The incredible responsibility of having this hallmark organization and this community and how it served the community, his responsibility there, his respect. Not just, you heard many staff talk about the way that he mentored them and mentored them just far beyond the work that they did at the Y. And honesty, I would always say, if you don't want the truth, don't ask Mark the question, right? Because he's going to give you a straight answer. And he also tells great stories. Mark, I really do hope at some point that you write the book on like the hilarious member stories, especially the ones you would tell during COVID. And then lastly, I'm going to close. I think that the value that most is a part of Mark is that caring, right? And everybody in this room could probably tell a story about something thoughtful that Mark did. But mine most recently is I lost my mom about 7 months ago. And it was a very difficult time for me and for my family. And Mark sent the most beautiful flower arrangement and thoughtful card. And it's not something that he had to do. I don't work for him. I don't supervise him. We've just been colleagues for a long time. And so, Mark, that meant a lot. And I truly wish you and your family well in this next chapter. I know you won't stay far. I know we'll see a lot of you. And really, God bless you and good luck.
Well, speaking of being very young, I remember when this next speaker was born. In fact, I remember when his parents became engaged. Mark came back to the farmhouse at camp one night and said his pastor had introduced him to a lovely young woman, and Mark came back to camp that night, or not that night, but one night after knowing Pam for a long time, said, "Hey, John, I got engaged." I'm like, "Wow, so that everything works out. So wonderful to you. And we do have family recognition. Please give a big hand to their son, John Eckendorf.
All right, to start, I'd like to say congratulations for lasting 44 years. Not to you, because you've given enough to that tonight, but congratulations to everyone who's worked any of those 44 years with my dad. You've made it and it's over. You've made it through all the pranks, the jokes you just felt you had to laugh at. Oh, this isn't a roast. That's my bad. Yeah. But you have made it through all the jokes you felt you had to laugh at, all the countless things that my dad would do. So please give yourself a round of applause for that. In all seriousness, though, for my family, we grew up in the Y. From going to Camp Aniasta during the summers, taking swim lessons, and even my sister and I working here at the Y and being able to see the organization that our dad led. Let me just make a note on that. We weren't treated like the boss's kids at all. And Jason back there, you couldn't have just given me a little bit of slack, man? Come on. Just a little bit. But I think it does go deeper than just being the boss's kids and getting a little harder on us. I think that we were challenged to do better and be better, and that's the kind of organization that my dad ran. He ran a place that could feel like a second home, and anyone who was a part of the organization could feel like family. A place that the main goal wasn't to be the gym, but it was to help the community grow. In talking with my family this week, a common thing that was said was, he truly never grew up. Now, I don't think that was said in a negative manner, but that is one of his greatest traits. And I think it's one of the reasons he was such a great leader in this organization. He seems to make any situation more fun no matter how it is. To not always take everything so seriously and truly live in the moment. I think that made him a great leader. It's been amazing to see how many lives my dad has been able to change, but also to see how this organization has changed his life. From my family to yours, we thank you for all the time you spent working with my dad and investing into his life. Dad, we're so proud of what you've accomplished over the past 44 years, and we look forward to what you're going to accomplish in the future. Now, please wish my family luck in the great adventure of dealing with Mark Eckendorf in retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And this brings us now to our honoree who best exemplifies the YMCA mission and certainly our values of honesty, respect, responsibility, and especially caring. Please give a great round of applause for outgoing CEO Mark Eckendorf. Thank you.
There's a few things I want to find out, but we'll have to wait till later. Is Chris Blakesley still here? He had to go. I want to know who took my dog's doghouse and put it out on the raft out in the middle of actually the dog was still in it one morning. And I never did get an answer to that. I came down and where's Ani, and we'll go look out there in the lake, and the doghouse and the dog were out there. So, and the underwear up the flagpole, I never found that one out either, but anyhow, I have to start with faith, because without it, I wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't have. It's what made me tick, and you heard that. I'm going to read. It's on my wall, and some of you may probably know it. It's pretty famous. It's called Footprints. One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky, flashed scenes from his life. For every scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him and one belonged to the Lord. When he had, I should have brought my glasses. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints of the sand. He noticed many times there was only one set, and that upset him. He said, Lord, why was there only one set? I thought when I gave my life to you, you would walk with me. I don't understand what's going on here. And the Lord says, my precious, precious child, I love you and would never leave you, dream. Your times of trial and suffering. When you see one set of footprints, that's when I carried you. And for me, that's how I got through the tough times, the good times, the times that I got off in the weeds and were really screwing things up, sometimes on purpose, sometimes just making wrong decisions. He always brought me back. Now, when I came here, I was single, 28 years old, beat up car, and one dog. Now I have like 20 dogs, not 20, but I'm really upset. Now I got this vacation package because I was planning on taking some time off, and I had this one dog that I really needed to breed because she's at the end. And I made the decision, she would be due July 4th, and I made the decision, I'm not breeding her. I need this time off afterwards just to relax. And I kept her away from the male dogs. And just the other day, one of the other dogs was gaining weight. And I must have been paying attention to this fox red, why this yellow girl had a rendezvous. And the vet told me there's 9 to 10 puppies due around the 4th of July. So, anyhow, I came here by myself. Now I leave with a wife, 2 kids, mother-in-law. Let me tell you the story of, I got 2 stories that'll get you out of here, but I was living with John, like he said, and bachelors keep stuff. There's a code there. But I was going to church in Westfield, and just wasn't happening, wasn't connecting. And I think I may even stop going. And I knew about 2 churches, one in Jamestown and one in Falconer. It was Levant. But I did not know anybody. I just knew they were good churches, and I knew I needed to go. And I'm driving down 86, it was 17 at the time, sweating because I knew it was a really important decision. And I knew if I was going to the Jamestown one, I had to get off at Maine. And if I was going to Levant, and again, I didn't even know where either one of these churches were. I just had a general idea. And I stayed on and went to Levant, and I come in, and it really wasn't about, I didn't think church was a good place to meet a lady, actually, at that point. But Pam, it was kind of hard to miss her because she was a greeter every Sunday. And she's smiling and welcomed me to the church. And she'll tell the story that maybe I saw somebody out in the parking lot first, but I don't agree with that. Anyhow, we started dating. Mother-in-law was kind of skeptical. She didn't like the beard, I don't think. So I still have Becky put up mother-in-law jokes from time to time as revenge. But luckily, the wise father-in-law said, I think this is good. He's seen the potential, but Don and Shirley are sitting there and into a blessed family, and just it's been wonderful with my wife and now my kids, and hoping for some grandkids soon, maybe. No pressure. No pressure. But I do have a couple good neighbor kids right here that are at my house. 3 of them actually come to my house quite regularly, so I'm very blessed. I want to tell you one other story that talk about God having a providence on your life. I quit school at college, and that would have been the end of it. I wasn't thinking YMCA in those days. I was thinking teacher, gym teacher, but mostly to be a coach, a basketball coach. And I definitely wouldn't have picked George. He fouled too much, but I dreamed of being a basketball coach. I played high school basketball. I was okay, but I used to take notes about the coach and how their techniques and stuff. That's how bad I wanted to do it. And I got all the way to my end of my junior year, and student taught, and did not have a good experience. The elementary part of the experience was good. The senior high, I did not like it, sitting there just making sure everybody took a shower, bringing them up, taking attendance, and could never do anything with them. I was really discouraged. I quit in December. I quit school. And I did teach some tennis, and I thought, well, maybe I'll be a teaching pro. I'll go down south, but I just never made that move. My parents were after me, and my mom's sitting over here. We'll introduce them in a minute. So I said, you got to do something. So I began to learn a trade because I was really lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I was learning to run a printing press. And luckily, my supervisor pulled a knife on me one day, got a little upset. And I said, no, this ain't for me. I'm out of here. And he didn't like it because I was giving the boss tennis lessons, and the boss liked me, and he didn't like that. So I left that, and then I went to work for LB's Big Boy Restaurant as a manager. I thought, well, this is nice. I can wear a tie and a nice shirt, and they don't pay you very much. And you got long hours, and I bought a car at that point and had this professional job, and it looked like that was going to be my life. And I was up at the Erie Mall, and that wasn't my store. My store was down on 12th Street at the time, and sometimes they would send somebody to cover a break. So I was up at the Erie Mall at LB's up there. None of them are around anymore. A side story is I was the one that the night the Big Boy got stolen, I was the manager on duty that night. My supervisor was not happy that the Big Boy was gone, and some fraternity kids had taken it over to the golf course, but she didn't fire me over that. Anyhow, I was up to the mall, and I told you I was a tennis player, and went to college to play basketball and tennis, decided I was better at tennis, and I was pretty good. I was #1 man and had a pretty good career, but I still left it all behind. So I'm up at the mall. This is a year and a half after I quit school. Wasn't thinking about anything, and I took my break, get a half-hour break or whatever, and I'm walking around the mall. And who do I run into? My old tennis coach, my tennis coach. And I was really close to him. Now, I had no idea he was at the mall. He lives in Slippery Rock, an hour and a half away. He had no idea I don't even know if he knew I was managing a restaurant. This is in August, towards the end of August, school starts. And he saw me, he says, how's everything going? And I said, it's okay, it's probably not what I want to do with my life, but he says, why don't you come back to college? And I said, I just bought a new car, and I got payments and commitments and all this sort of thing. And he said, well, what if we got it all paid for? I said, sure, I'd come back. I didn't think it was possible. It was a Division III school. I still don't know where they came up with the money. They're Division II now. But just give me a couple days and I'll call you. He called me and said, it's all paid for. You don't have to pay a cent. Now, I had to be a hall advisor for part of it, which was good. That fit in with kind of what I was called to do. And you got to sweep the tennis courts every now and then. So I went back to college. I would have never qualified for a Y career if that hadn't happened. I was lost, and I know God intervened at that time. Also, I'm sure he's on the tape here. A friend of mine had graduated ahead of me and went and got a job at the YMCA and started talking to me about YMCA and said, this is wonderful and way different than teaching. The kids are there because they want to be there. And if you want to spend an hour and a half with a program, you can. You don't have to take your attendance, but keep them for an hour and a half if that's what they want. You can do what you want. So, wow, this is pretty interesting. And I got real interested in the YMCA at that point after I graduated. I went and saw the executive director at one of the Ys in Erie. I went to a number of the Ys there. Only one of them really took the time to talk to me. His name was Al Shell. And he took as much time as needed. We talked a couple weeks ago, and I thanked him again. But he sat down with me, told me all about the Y, answered all my questions, and actually called me back 2 weeks later and offered me a part-time, full-time job. It wasn't the professional position I was looking for, but it got my foot in the door. And I guess the thing I say to you is, help a kid. That made a difference that guy took the time for me, and I think that's why I've always loved kids so much and try to help them. Had an uncle, Carl, who's long since passed, that always made me feel important, always took me places. Made a difference for me. I was sick, however, and really fighting 2 years of being pretty sick, but I was working. And I was starting to get interviews all over the country. And it was fun. They fly you to the sites. I was out in Chicago, New Jersey, trying to think of different places. One time I had to take a train, but you stayed in a hotel. They paid for everything. And I wasn't getting the jobs. But I was always, in that time, there was probably 50 to 100 people that applied for a Y job. And I was just trying to break in as a youth director or something like that. And I kept not getting it. I'd get the interviews, but not getting it. And remember, I was sick. Finally decided to take care of the illness problem that I'd struggled with for 2 years. I needed to go in the hospital, and I was going to be out for a while. From my hospital bed, after the surgery, I sent my resume to Lake County, Ohio. They called me. Got that job. God was watching out for me again. My family are all sitting in here, not appropriately dressed. Some of them had to leave, I guess, but my mom is back there, not appropriately dressed. My mom, my sister, my brother, Joe, Patty. Karen had to leave. Karen is here from Florida and stayed an extra day just to be here. So I really appreciate my family's support over the years. It's been tremendous. Members that are here tonight, you mean the world to me. All the members, so many members taught me a lot. And is Ed Freeman still here? So many people, but Ed's one of our oldest members, longest time. Charlie Stafford, Charlie Watkins is still here, I think. But so many great members that made a difference. It's a caring place, it's a family, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to work. Are the 4th Street housing people still here? Nobody's mentioned the 4th Street. Yeah, Irma's back there. Nobody's mentioned 4th Street. I see what a wonderful opportunity for us. 19 handicap apartments and wonderful, wonderful people. They just can't get around sometimes the same way we can. Did Paul come down? Yeah. This guy right here is lucky to be alive. He steps right behind Jason. Paul decided to surf down those steps backwards in his wheelchair. And that was only a few months ago, but he survived and harasses me most times when the Browns lose and the Bills win. But I'm going to try not to give him my home phone number. But no, you guys mean so much because we see the Y mission both ways, from what you guys give to us up there, caring for the staff, and for what we're able to give to you, giving you a place to call home, a place to be welcomed. The board over the years, and John Barber, where'd you go, John? Yeah, it's the greatest opportunity to learn from these board members. We disagreed. You heard that a few times. We didn't always see eye to eye. Well, if you saw eye to eye, then maybe one of you wasn't needed. It's good. Good, healthy debate is good. It's just at the end of the day, you shake hands and you do what's best for the organization. And it's fine. It's needed. It really is needed. And sometimes boards tend to not go that way, and they really do need to have that freedom. But John, I learned so much from so many of my board members over the years, and what an opportunity to listen to George. I know George, one time I was in deep trouble in an unemployment case, and the person had actually hired somebody that had been on Fox News and wrote a book, How to Fire Your Boss. And I was losing pretty bad when they brought that person in, because they were talking about stuff that had nothing to do with anything, and I was just agreeing with them and shaking and everything else. And luckily they stopped it to come back, adjourned it, And I said, George, I'm in deep trouble here. Help me out. And George gave me some points, and we came back and I was collected this time, and we won that one. But I learned from George. I learned from Tad Wright. I learned from Sam Price. You know, somebody threatens a lie, and these guys are just calm and cool. They defend us. Hadley, I think, probably had to leave. I was so pleased to see Hadley Weinberg here. I learned so much financial stuff from Hadley, from Terry Strong's. I didn't know much about budget. When I was hired, that was my weakness, supposedly. Budgets and computers. And they became my strengths, both of them, because I knew that was my weakness. That's what I needed to learn. But you're going to have a front row seat to the best of the best. Listen to them learn, you know, and then you got to argue with them, make sure you know what you're talking about. But Bobby Thompson, where she felt she had to go somewhere. Bobby was the president, I believe, then, Mike. She took over this 30-year-old with behind the ears kid. And that's why I think I'm the longest. Nobody got the job at 30 years old. I was 5 to 10 years away. My next step would have been a branch director or senior program or operations or something, not a CEO. And for whatever reason, she saw something in me and convinced Pete Sullivan and Mike and the rest of them that I could do it. And we did it. We learned. We did it. So I'm so thankful for Bob and that she did that. And again, those of you that have the opportunity, make a difference, take a chance for somebody, especially if they exhibit qualities that you can see through, see, make you grow. Trustees, they're like our godparents, our godfathers, godmothers. They have so much wisdom. I used to love to meet with them. My first group of trustees, and I'm probably one of the last that can even say some of my trustees knows, but my first trustees were John Hamilton, Reggie LeMay, Paul Sullivan, Charles Price, Ben Shelton came along, and Gene Foley, yeah, those guys. They were the top leaders in Jamestown, and you just listened and said, yes, sir, no, sir. But they were so supportive, and I learned so much from them. And we have the same group here. Jamie's back there, and Sam, Mike. But any other trustees, is Terry still there? I know a lot of people had to go, and I'm almost done, but I had to recognize all that you guys have meant to me over the years. And last is my staff, and I would say a lot's what I already said about them, but my two cornerstones were Tom. John was here first, and he did tell me not to take the job. That's true. He didn't say it in a bad way. He just said, get the heck out of here. You don't want it. Luckily, I didn't believe him. And camp was really bad. My first year on the job was, there was more staff than we had campers. We had 30-some, 35 staff and 30 campers. And I said, what did I get myself into? And I remember I sent those staff, I said, break up in twos and go around. We had all this campership money. I said, go around Jamestown and find kids off on the street and get them to come to Camp Anyasa. Now, if that happened today, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. But it wasn't quite that scary back in those days, and they got some kids. But it was tough. And we made progress after the first year. The second year was growth, and that's all they're looking for is a little grow. Then I handed it off to John, and he just took off to the moon with it. So it's just a fantastic place. Tom was selling T-shirts every week, every day. And we played #1 man at Brockport. So we talked some tennis, talked some basketball, talked some Cleveland Browns. Figured he would stop trying to sell me shirts if I gave him a job. No, I seen something in Tom. I really did. I seen just a guy that was going to be a winner, creative, all these things. And we had to literally sit there and say, how are we going to pay for your position? Because we had no money. And we said, okay, we're going to start this league, and we're going to start that league, and we're going to remember that, Tom, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And Tom, if you get full attendance, I think we can pay your salary. I mean, he knew that going in too. And we just started growing piece by piece.
Yep, when Lakely became available, he was the first person that, like you said, I told him to. Couldn't do anything else. John Barber, Rhonda, Jason. Is Jason gone? No, maybe not. Jason likes to try to fool people. But he's one of the best staff here as you can imagine. The Fools are really scared, Jason. Really scary place as a CEO. We've never had a job in here. I would never worry about it with Jason on the job. I know, we're always, I don't want to jinx you, Jason. He puts his kids through in his own special way. And he's a legend in the aquatic department. And my neighbor kids, I'm going to have them report to him. You got to teach them how to swim, okay? Rhonda's taken every assignment I ever gave her. She told you a little bit. Everything, aerobics, babysitting, for going, whatever, you know, I come to her, hey Rhonda, I need you to make a switch. And every time, and I gave her that because I knew she would excel at it. She might have a learning experience, but she would excel at it. Gina is here. Gina's done fantastic with the child care. And so those are the staff I mentioned earlier that's been here the longest. And just, these are long-term people. Really a blessing to have them stay with you. Barber is staying, you know, not going back to the ministry or something like that. And then more newer people that are just not here. Dave Dahlman, Deanna, Jessica, Ashley, Joe Alexis. There's Joe Alexis. I'm thinking great things for this guy right here, working with the teams. I got vision for you, buddy. And Alex back there too. Worked with Eastside and really not be dead. You're going to do it, guys. I'm sorry if I don't. I'm not going to do that very good. It's Matt Johnson. He's still there. He's a heck of a tennis player, tennis pro. He's got a lot of potential. Becky, she's the life of the party at the front desk. I wanted a ride that would be fun and yet do work. I want it to be a lot of fun. And I never really figured it out until Becky started showing me. Now, some of the times, maybe she showed me too much, but she made it a lot of fun. And the staff made it fun. And we got a lot done, we accomplished a lot. And the last person I want to mention is Connie, who's not here. She would be here, she could be. She's a cornerstone. Her husband relocated a year and a half ago, 2 years. She's a big cornerstone for the whole thing. In closing, as you heard, we're turning it over to Buffalo as a management agent. I think I leave you in a really good place with them. These are great guys. They're sitting back there, John and Jeff. Is Matt here? Where do you see him? Yes. I see Jeff. Okay, just you two. Anyhow, I've gotten to know them. My staff has got to know them. We're down-to-earth people. John and I were both at the same Y. A couple years apart in Lake County, the Y I told you I got hired at. And I'm very, very pleased. I wanted to leave the Y in good hands. And that's not to say with a search that wouldn't have brought somebody in that could have. But I thought this is a real opportunity. The board believed with that. And so I think it's going to be really good. That's what's happening. We're going to manage us at least for a year and see how everything goes. But there's a lot of talent and all that there. Finally, I can't wait to come in the morning as a member. And that water better be warm. Building better be clean. Becky better be awake. Because I can't wait to issue some complaints. See how it feels on the other end of it. And John O'Brien taught me that Anyasa is an Indian Iroquois word or something that means hello, goodbye. Since then, I've just changed it. I think some people have called him on it or something. And that's not really what it means. But we always told the kids at Glass A we have candlelight or some kind of thing, and it's kind of sad. And so it means hello, goodbye. So I will close with Anyasa!
this thing where if you got done talking and then you had something else to say, you had to pay $1 to talk. So Mark, I owe you $1. But I have to do this because I promised Connie today that when I spoke to her on the phone. And she wishes that she could be here. She's got a grandbaby on the way and she's not able to leave, but she's thinking of us and thinking of you and wishing you and your family well.
I think you notice the spiritual theme here tonight, which harkens back to our earliest incarnation in 1844, George Williams in England, when spiritual growth was foremost. The logo was changed to represent diversity within the Y, but for a long time, the red triangle represented the YMCA, and one of the major sides, the most important side of that red triangle, was spiritual development, along with intellectual growth and healthy living. And along with that, we've added a sense of community. So Mark has really represented that. I think you see that spiritual theme tonight. Looking across the arc of Mark's career, one of the changes Mark first brought to camp long ago was a spiritual event, activity, program called Candlelight on Friday evenings. It is now a favorite part of our week for campers and staff and a meaningful way to close our sessions. Often, when Mark was the director of camp, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8 was read, and if I may paraphrase it, to everything there's a season, time for every work under heaven, time to be born and a time to die, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to embrace, a time to be away from embracing, a time to search and a time to stop searching, a time to plant and a time to harvest. If I could add my own words, a time to work hard and a time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Mark, you got us here by having a vision, a high sense of morality, caring for staff members for 37 years. That tenure is amazing, both within the local YMCA movement and national Y history. Looking back over that period, plus the 2 years since your first interview, I'm glad you didn't take my advice to run. Thanks for all you've done for our community, our members, and the Jamestown YMCA staff. I'm now pleased to have our closing, George, Scott, and Ashley.
Mark, I'm going to need you up here. Okay. We have one last gift to give you. This is from some of the staff and all of your Y members.
So really quick, guys, I wanted to take this time to thank the people who put this on today besides myself, Mr. George Barbianco, Ashley Berlin, and John O'Brien. So a round of applause for those three. So before we leave, the invitation, you guys can see, I think there's one down here, right? And it says something about saying goodbye to the tide. So, Barb.
Once again, our sincere and really hard to express appreciation, but I hope I will see you at camp. Don't go swimming with your dogs, because that's another story I'm not going to get into, like you did on your wedding day. But I've been told there's food to take
unless I take it to the hungry campers. There are also opportunities for photos over on the photo wall of Mark. Please enjoy the rest of the evening, some social time, and thank you for being here tonight.